I wanted to just spend a few minutes discussing the effect and the premise of the legislation we just decided not to move forward on. You know, I've spent 25 years of my life caring for women. There is not a complication of pregnancy that I have not handled. I've seen every aspect of it. I've delivered babies the size of my little finger and watched them move their little arms, not yet far enough along to survive. I've cared for women in the midst of lost pregnancies and the tragedy and trauma and the heartbreak. I've cared for women that have had abortions and the complications that has completed and exacerbated in their own lives, from psychological to real physical problems. I've actually performed abortions to save women's lives who had severe congenital heart defects and would have died had their pregnancy continued. But the premise under which this bill was brought forward is an absolute false premise. You see, I come from Oklahoma. David Green and his family come from Oklahoma. They are the owners of Hobby Lobby. They're one of the finest group of people I've ever met in my life. They are responsible corporate citizens. But everything they've done in their life is guided by their faith and their ethics. And therefore, they're not open on Sunday because they feel their employees have a right to a restful weekend. They pay a very livable wage. They've always had health insurance. The Supreme Court decision was about religious freedom and whether or not I, as a private business person, am still entitled to that as I carry on commerce in this country. And what has been described, maybe not specifically, but negatively, is that Hobby Lobby and the Green family don't appreciate women or their contributions or their rights or their freedoms. Nothing could be further from the truth. They had a very personal objection to 4 abortifacients, not birth control pills, 4 medicines, devices that actually kill a living human being. See, what we don't think about very often, and I think about all the time, is that when an egg and a sperm unites, there is created something that's never been created before, a unique human being. The genetic material will be no different at conception than it is when you're 85 years old. It's unique. It's never before been here, will never again be here. And so based on these deeply held beliefs and ethics, and what I would say is morals, they chose to supply their entire employee network with 16 different methods of birth control. But the 4 that actually kill a baby that's been formed, they thought it was their religious right to be able to say they shouldn't have to take money out of their pocket to pay for something that goes against their strongly held moral, ethical, and faith beliefs. So we've had a reaction. It's political in nature. It doesn't have much to do with the facts. It has a lot to do with darkness. Of saying something so that isn't true, and saying it often enough so that we can tell people that here are those terrible Republicans and they want to hurt women. I dedicated 25 years of my life to helping women in every type of tragedy, every type of disease, whether it's cancer or diabetes or hypertension or pregnancy or miscarriages or just the common cold. And before the Senate forced me to stop delivering babies, I was delivering babies that I delivered. In other words, it was the third generation. That's how crazy the Senate ethics rules are. And so the very undercurrent of what we heard couldn't be further from the truth. And what we heard, the implications were, is that the Green family is somehow this negative corporate monster who wants to take women's rights away is absolutely untrue. The other falsehood that we hear is that if you don't have health care, you don't have available birth control. We spend $400 million a year on Title 19, most of which is in birth control pills that are given out to women who don't have access. It costs $7 a month to buy birth control pills, and most physicians like myself who had women who could not either access Title 19 or who didn't have $7 a month gave the pills themselves out of their stocks, their samples. So there is a reality other than what has been painted in the Senate, and I couldn't sit by and let this hang out, this terrible untruth. I don't know of a family business, I don't know of a business in America that cares more about its employees than Hobby Lobby. And it's manifested through the employee loyalty and also the success of their brand. Because they really have a team, and you don't have a team if you don't feel like you're being cared for, that you're not one of a group. There are a lot of problems in front of this country, but the one described in this last piece of legislation isn't one of them. The Green family doesn't keep anybody from buying an abortifacient if they want it. It's not all that expensive. The morning after pill's over the counter. But to force a person of faith to pay for an action against what they believe is morally wrong is a far way from the religious liberties that our Constitution guarantees us. And I know we can get hyped up on emotion, but the emotion we ought to get hyped up on is preserving the rights that our founders guaranteed when they started this country. And they were based on the same set of beliefs that the Green family inculcates into everything that they do with Hobby Lobby. Pretty ironic to me that we've become so postmodern, so smart, so for what the government can do and mandate that we're willing to destroy the very freedoms that created this country in the first place. This bill was a cynical attack on truth. I'm glad it's not proceeding. It's time to quit wasting the Senate on political games and start addressing the very real problems that this country has, like the fact that Social Security disability will run out of money next month, the fact that a third of those on disability who aren't truly disabled are threatening the livelihood of those who truly are, the fact that now Medicare, 17 years from now or 16 years from now, will be out of money, the fact that Social Security will be out of money in 18 years, the fact that we're having corporations leave this country in a mass flood because we have a tax code that's not competitive with the rest of the world, the fact that we're wasting $250 billion a year on duplicative programs that don't accomplish the goals of which the Congress set out for them to do, but yet we have no leadership that says we're going to address the very real problems in front of the country. It's not a great record to be proud of. I yield the floor.